Okay, I have noon on my clock. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Zachary Taylor, one of First Northern Credit Union's business development representatives. We have one of our branch managers, Miss Amy Harris, with us this afternoon to present today's webinar, Women and Money. This presentation is a part of our monthly financial wellness series that you can find the full list of on fncu.org/seminars. Now, everyone should be able to download the workshop's handout directly from the GoToWebinar software. It would be located underneath Handouts. It's a little click down on the right-hand side or wherever your GoToWebinar is at. We will follow up with an email by the end of the week with materials that will be presented today. That's going to include the presentation in a PDF form and anything else that may be covered. Now, throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the questions box. Again, that's on the GoToWebinar software. That's going to come directly to us privately, so don't worry if you're a little shy about your question, anything like that. That just comes straight to us. I'll do my best to address them and answer what I can, or I'll pass it directly to Ms. Harris after the presentation, and then you can finish up any questions that are there. With that, I will now turn the microphone over to Ms. Harris. Take it away, Amy.
Thank you, Zachary, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, as Zachary mentioned, my name is Amy Harris. I am the manager here at the Streeterville location, and we'll be conducting our seminar this afternoon. So welcome to all of you who are taking the time to attend this seminar. So this workshop that we're going to be looking at is not about providing women with special information because they are worse at managing their money or less capable of understanding financial concepts. That is not what this workshop is about. This workshop is about recognizing the different expectations, roles, and life situations that women face in regards to what women may face versus men. For example, women often fall into a caretaking role, neglecting themselves while helping others. Women also, on average, live longer than men and spend more time in and out of the workforce. So those are some of the differences that women face that men may not face. That's some of the differences that would cause us to have different financial goals or financial situations. So there is if you have your handout, on page 1, there is a financial independence assessment. And I want to give you just a minute just to go through that assessment, just to look at it, and to start to complete the assessment by answering, marking whether or not in those categories a 1 or a 2. If you choose a 1 for any of those questions, it is basically saying that that is an area that you feel that you are dependent on. And if you choose 2 as an option, that is an area that you feel more independent on. So it's not to look at it to say that, to say that you're dependent in a certain area is a bad thing. That's not what it is, but it may look at it to say this is an area where I may need a little more help than in other areas. So it's not to say that, there's a right or wrong answer. It's just to kind of give you an example of where you feel or where you see your current level of financial independence. So independence is not about ignoring the needs of others or collaborating with a spouse. Independence is about being able to handle your finances and life situations without letting them control you, which is so important. This workshop is intended to give you the tools and knowledge needed to be financially independent. And that's what we all strive for, or should strive for, is to be financially independent. So the first thing that we're going to look at is budgeting. Now, I know a lot of times the word budget is not something that everyone wants to hear, but it is essential to our financial success. Budgeting is the key to being able to save, pay bills on time, and not need to use credit to pay your expenses. The first step in budgeting is to list what you are spending now. And you can use the budgeting worksheet that is on page 3 in your handout to help you. And I would encourage you to really use this uh, uh, worksheet to establish a budget, to really see where you are, so that you can track your spending. So the first thing you want to do, of course, like I said, is list out what you're spending on now, and then maybe list out what things that you're not spending on now, but you may want to add. So you may want to add things like savings contribution or life insurance premiums. So you may want to add those things to that if it's not already a part of your expenses that you have now. The next thing that you want to do is list what your income is. So you where all the areas of income that you get, you want to list that on that page, and then you're going to deduct your expenses from your income. Now, I will say that sometimes the answers that we get, the story that is being told when we put all this together, is sometimes not a story that we really wanted to see, but it's important because now you kind of know where you stand, and then you know that if my expenses are greater than my income, then I need to make some changes. And what kind of changes can I make? So you can look at that budgeting sheet to see if there's anything on there that you might be able to cut back on or eliminate altogether. And then there may be other things that, it may look at and say, I really can't cut anything out. Everything on here is something that is necessary. Then it may be, at that point to look at some other alternatives. Um, do I have opportunity maybe to get a second job for a certain period of time to bring in an extra income so that I can pay off some things or put myself in a better situation? One thing is for sure that when we continue to do the same thing the same way, we get the same results. So we do want to try to see what is it that I can do differently to make some changes. Sometimes, and a lot of times, it's just changes that I have to make on a short term basis. What we want to do is we want to keep track of our expenses so that we can stay on budget. And that's very important as well. Okay. So as I stated, a budget is only helpful if it is followed. Tracking your expenses can help you keep your spending in line with your budget. You can list your expenses for the month. You can list it on a computer, you can list it on a computer spreadsheet or a special budgeting software, or you can even just track it on your phone. But the one thing about the budget is that you don't want to complete it and then stick it in a drawer and never see it again. You want to put it someplace where you're going to see it, where it is going to be a reminder for you as to what you're doing, how you're doing it, and if you're making progress. So you want to put that budget someplace where you can see it. You don't want to spend the time to put a budget together and then never refer to it again. So it's only helpful if it is followed. Okay. Now the next thing that we want to look at is credit. And having a good credit score is important for many aspects of our lives. We need to have a good credit score. And as many of you know, your credit score is a measure of the likelihood you will pay back the credit you borrow. In order to have a good credit score and demonstrate you are trustworthy, you must have some sort of credit. And I'm just going to believe that many of you on here do have credit established, and that you do know that in order for you to have a good score, the things that are most important is your payment history, and as well as the balances that you keep on your credit cards. So even if you're married, even if your spouse has credit, it is a good idea also for you to have credit in your own name. That is also important. For some people, their student loans were their first type of credit that they have, but that might not be where you are right now. It may not be It may not be an option for you right now. But having some type of credit getting credit in your name is important to establishing a good credit score. If you try to get credit, say you applied for the financial institutions and was denied credit, you can also look at getting credit at a store or a gas card, using those cards at that particular store, or using the gas card to get gas in your car if you drive. Also, getting a secured credit card. Those are some options for people who may have been denied credit at a financial institution. But what you do want is to have some type of credit and to show payment history, because that's the only way that your score is going to, first of all, to get a score, and then in order for your score to improve, the payment history is something that is very important. So if you're able to get a store card like a Kohl's card or Target card or Walmart card, or if you get a gas card for a gas station, and then you use that, the key here is that you don't want to overextend yourself on the card. You don't want to just pay the minimum balance on the card. You want to pay more. You want to pay it off, really, when your statement comes out. So you don't want to just accumulate a lot of debt on that card, because low balances and good payment history is what helps you to have a good score. So while your credit is necessary for the good score, irresponsibly, as I was saying, managing your credit will only hurt your score. So as I was stating, you want to make sure your payments are on time and you keep your balances low. Now, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act gives you the right to have a credit history separate from your spouse. If you have a co-signed account, the creditor can not only report it on your spouse's report, it must be reported on yours as well. So you have the right to have credit in your own name and apply for an account without needing your spouse as a co-signer. However, it is legal for a creditor to deny you for credit if your credit score is too low, or if you do not have sufficient income, as long as the creditor applies the same standards to everyone. It is always best not to carry a balance, if at all possible, on your cards, but you may already have debt. You may have already had debt that has already been established. And now what we're trying to do is eliminate the debt. What can we do to start to eliminate some of the debt that we already have established? There are some ways that we can do this, and we have here on the slide where it's showing two ways to pay down your debt faster. One way is to pay extra. It's better to focus on one creditor and pay that creditor extra than to try to focus on all of them and pay all of them, give to all of them extra payments. If you focus on one, then you can possibly pay that one off. And then once you pay that one off, take those funds and apply it to the next creditor and work towards paying that one off. That usually works better than trying to give a little more to everybody, is to focus more on getting one creditor paid off so that you can focus on the next one and getting that one paid off. You can start with the card with the highest balance or with the lowest balance. You can also either start with the one with the highest interest rate or the highest finance charge. I like the one with the lowest balance, because if that's something I can pay off quickly, then that's a sense of gratification for me, that I've paid something off and now I see that I'm making a dent, I'm making progress. So getting rid of that one with the lowest balance sometimes is better, because at least then you can start seeing some progress in your efforts and what you're trying to do. You can also ask for lower interest rate. You can ask your creditors to see if you can, on your credit cards, get a lower interest rate. Now, if you've been paying on time, and usually they look for a 12-month history of on-time payments, and you're not maxing out your cards, sometimes you can get a lower rate. Not all of them will say yes, but some of them might. Another thing that you can do is do a balance transfer. So if you're able to get a card with that has a promotional rate or a lower interest rate, you can transfer funds from the higher interest rate card to the lower. If it's going to a card that is a promotion, where they have a promotion for a lower interest rate, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that if the amount that you were paying on the old card was not a hardship, what you want to do is, even after you transfer the balance over to the new card with the promotional lower rate, you want to keep paying the same amount that you were paying per month. The reason for that now is that money, more of that money is going to go towards the principal to help pay that off faster. What you don't want to do, if at all possible, is to resort to just paying the minimum that's requested. You want to pay more. The interest rate is low. It gives you an opportunity to try to get this debt paid off faster because you're paying less interest, and what you're paying is going, more of it can go towards the principal instead of the more going towards the interest. So that's one of the keys there, is if you're transferring money from one card to the other. If it's a promotional, remember that promotion, however long it lasts, it may be 6 months, a year, 18 months, 24 months, but it's going to go away. And what you don't want is to be stuck with a high balance on that card, and now you're going to end up having to pay higher interest rate on that money because the promotion has ended. So that's the things that you want to keep in mind. It's good to transfer, but if you can keep paying the same amount that you were paying, do that, so that more of that money will go towards the principal to help to pay that card off faster. Okay? You can also do consolidation loans. You can do a home equity loan or a line of credit. And so with the consolidation of putting all the debt together, and so you'd have one monthly payment and hopefully a lower interest rate, that's great. What you don't want to do is to do a consolidation and then start to rack up new debt, because now you're only putting yourself in a deeper hole, and you don't want to do that. So if you do a consolidation, you put your debt together so that you're paying one monthly payment. Hopefully, it's a lower payment. You can, and hopefully, it's better to do it as a fixed loan, so that in 5 to 10 years you can, 5 years or less, or 10 years or less, you can have this paid off. That's your goal. To get it paid off is not to put it all together and then rack up more debt. Okay, so you want to consolidate, but you don't want to add new, because adding new will only put you in a deeper bind, and that's not what you want. You also want to look at debt management plans. The company that we work with, our partner Balance, can definitely help with you with setting up a debt management plan for yourself and for your household, so to help you to get out of debt, because that's the whole key, is to do what we can do to get out of debt, and to get out of debt quicker. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to switch over to talk about insurance. Um, a lack of health insurance is a problem that a lot of people face, but women are especially vulnerable because we are more likely to work part-time, or work where benefits usually are not provided, or be covered by a spouse's plan, putting the women at risk to lose their coverage through a divorce or widowhood. It is good to have your own health insurance if at all possible. If you are covered with the health insurance through your spouse and you lose it because of divorce or widowhood, you do have the option of keeping the insurance that you had through your husband's or your spouse's job through COBRA. I will say COBRA a lot of times is can be expensive, because even though you're getting the group rate, what the payment was before, your spouse's employer may have been contributing to that payment. But you can, if you're going under COBRA, even though you have the group rate, you have to pay the entire amount. So you no longer have the employer's contribution. So that can cause the insurance to be a little bit high when you look at it. So There are other things that you can look at, such as state health. If you cannot get your own health insurance through other insurance agencies, health insurance, you have the Affordable Health Care Plan that I believe is being revamped to look into and look into other avenues where you're able to get insurance, because you never know when something might happen, and we just don't want to not have life insurance if at all possible. The Medicaid and state health insurance is out there and it's available, but you do need to qualify for those, and the qualifications for those can be sometimes it can be hard to get. So it really depends on whether or not where you are as far as your income goes, and so many other things that are attached to that. So if you can get insurance, if you can't get insurance on your job, it is good to look into other ways that you might be able to get health insurance. The same thing with life insurance. Your life insurance is intended to provide for your loved ones that depend on you if you were to pass away. If you are single and you have no dependents, you may feel that you don't need life insurance. However, one of the things that when I used to sell life insurance and would talk to people, and sometimes that's what they would say, well, I'm single, I don't need life insurance. And what I would tell them is, yes, but your funeral expenses are still there. And so a small policy is better than nothing, because funeral expenses, someone still has to pay for it. So you still need to have some kind of life insurance. And it's better to get life insurance when you're younger, because you get more for less. But it's good to have it, because life insurance, if something was to happen to you, or make sure that your spouse also has life insurance, or something happened to your spouse, that is an income that's being taken away from the household. And the life insurance should be there um, to help to cover some of that expense, so that people don't have to make drastic changes all at once. It's one drastic change of losing a spouse, and it's another one of losing an income. So instead of having two things happening at the same time, we can eliminate one of them if we have the insurance in place to kind of help to ease things over, if not for even a long period of time, for a short period of time, just to give them opportunity to kind of get their footing, so that they can make necessary changes that need to be made in the household so that things can keep going. So that is very important to look into, having that life insurance there and understanding the reasons for having the life insurance. The next one is the disability. So with disability insurance, um, I'm sorry. So with disability insurance, it's good to have. You can have it either on a short-term or long-term basis. If this is something that your employer offers, it's good to look into that and to get, because we never know when we have to be off work. No one predicted that we were going to have this pandemic that happened, and we saw where people became sick and unable to work, but the bills don't stop. Okay, the bills keep going. So having this short-term insurance or long-term insurance in place would definitely help in cases such as what we have been experiencing. So like I said, we have the two types, the short and the long term. The short term usually lasts for like 6 months to 2 years, and the long term will provide benefits until retirement age. The long-term disability insurance is the most important to have. But for women who expect to have children in the future, having short-term disability policy as well makes good sense, because it provides benefits during maternity leave. However, you do need to have the long term, because you do want to know that if something was to happen to you, you have insurance that's going to, the money is going to be there to help to cover any medical expenses or other expenses that you might have while you cannot work. And then, like I said, the long term will cover you up through retirement age. Now, caring for oneself in old age is especially a concern for women. since on average, women live longer than men. Nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and in home care are expensive. Medicare and Medicaid only pay for nursing homes in a limited circumstance. Medicare only as a result of a specific injury or an illness, and Medicare only for those with limited income and assets. Neither pay for in home care, such as having an aide come to your home during the day. Um, you may want to consider, so you may want to consider long term care insurance, which covers nursing home and sometimes in home care costs. If you want to leave assets to your children or other heirs, instead of giving it to the nursing home or other care providers, it is best to have long-term care insurance. And the best time to purchase this insurance is when you are in your 50s or your 60s. And you also may want to consider this not only for yourself, but also for your parents as well. Okay? All right, so let's move on to our next topic, which is let's talk about retirement, which is something that we all want to be able to enjoy one day. Retirement. Women face special challenges in saving for retirement due to, on average, earning less than men, being out of the workforce more often than men, and living longer. Women also often receive less from a company's pension plan and Social Security because benefits are calculated based on salary and the number of years employed. Now, pension plans are becoming less popular these days with companies. A lot of companies do not have a pension plan, or their pension plans, they're very limited. The amount of your retirement benefits in a pension plan are guaranteed. If you do happen to have one, if you are able to get with a company that does have a pension plan, your uh, your retirement benefits are guaranteed, and it is really up to the company. It's their responsibility to finance their pension plans. It is more common now, though, for companies to have other defined contribution plans, such as the 401k. So the 401k it is on the employee to finance their own retirement, and the company many times will contribute to your 401k. It may be on a limited basis. So they may only contribute up to a certain amount. They may contribute 1%, 2%, some of them 5%, up to a certain percentage of your salary. But they will contribute to that, but it's really up to the employee to finance um, their own retirement in a 401k plan. One thing that I will say about the 401k plan is that if you leave a company and that to go and work somewhere else, and you had a 401k plan, be sure to either roll that old plan from that company into your new 401k if it is allowed. So you can talk to at your new company, talk to your HR or area to see if you can roll your 401k plan from the old company to the company where you are now. If it's not allowed, if you can't do that, then you want to roll it into an IRA. So you want to open up an IRA at a financial institution, and you want to roll that 401k into your IRA. The key here is that you don't want to spend that. That money was set aside for you to supplement your retirement. So you don't want to take that money from the old 401k plan and then spend that money. What you want to do is take it and roll it into another retirement plan so your retirement can keep being funded. And you don't want to always leave from one company to another and then start over in trying to build your retirement. You want to keep it going. So even if you change jobs, go somewhere else, take that money and put it into either the 401k plan at your new company or put it into an IRA at a financial institution. And we do offer, First Northern Credit Union does offer individual retirement accounts or IRAs. Okay? The sooner you start contributing, the better, because you are giving your money more time to earn interest. Many people base their contributions on how much they feel they can afford to contribute, not how much they actually need for retirement. However, you do not want to run out of money before you pass away. It can be hard to determine how much you need for retirement and how much you need to put aside now on your own. So there is a calculator, an AARP calculator on page 9 in your handout that you can use. You can reference that. There's a link there that you can reference. It's on page 9. That will help you to determine how much money you may need when you retire. Because it is true that sometimes we put aside only what we think we can afford, not what we think we're going to need later on. So it is good to take a look at that and to see how much you may need and how much you're able to put towards that future need, how much you can do now, contribute now. Outside of contributing to the employer-sponsored plan, you can also contribute to your own traditional IRA or Roth. If you have earned income, so you have to have earned income in order to contribute to an IRA or a Roth plan, traditional IRA or a Roth plan. Traditional IRAs work the same as your 401k. Contributions to a Roth, however, are not tax-free. So your contributions are not tax-free. However, your money grows tax-free in the account, and you do not have to pay taxes once you withdraw the funds. So that's the difference in a traditional versus a Roth. In a traditional, the contributions go in tax-free. They grow tax-free. However, when you withdraw those funds, you do pay taxes on that money that you are taking out of your traditional IRA. But with the Roth, your contributions are taxed going in, so that when you're ready to withdraw the money out, you're withdrawing it out tax-free. Okay, so those are the differences between the traditional and the Roth. If you are a stay-home mom, your husband or your spouse who is working can contribute to an IRA in your name. So that is allowed. The IRS limits yearly contributions to retirement funds. So the best thing to do is to talk with your tax specialist to know exactly how much you can contribute on a yearly basis, how much is allowed. Okay? Okay, so our next topic is investing. And there are several different vehicles to invest. We have savings accounts, we have certificates of deposits, we have bonds, and we have stocks. So I think we kind of know how savings accounts and certificates of deposits work. Opening those up and putting money into those accounts, depositing those into your financial institution, you do earn interest. However, we know that the interest maybe on many savings accounts is very, very low. There are not a lot of financial institutions that have savings accounts that are earning a high rate of interest. So your money isn't going to grow very fast in a savings account. Putting it into a CD, certificate of deposit, yes, your money may grow a little faster than it would if it was in a savings account. However, those funds do have to stay in that account for a certain length of time. So you can open a CD for 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 1 year or up to 5 years. Certificate, that means the money has to stay there that long. The longer the money stays, or if you choose a term of 5 years versus a term of 1 year, you will get a higher interest rate on the certificate with the longer term. Okay, but if you were to need those funds before the certificate matured, if you take it out, you could suffer a penalty. That penalty sometimes is the interest that you earned on it. All that interest will go back to the financial institution, and then sometimes even some of the principal may be penalized as well. So if you open up a CD, you want to open it up for a term or put money aside that you know that you're not going to need, no reason to touch it for the term that you're going to put it in for. So that's on the CDs. Now with bonds, you have the reverse relationship that you and your credit card company or mortgage or car lender has. With the bonds, you are the creditor, giving someone else money that they must pay back to you. You can purchase bonds from corporations, the federal government, state and local governments. Generally, you receive the principal, called the par value, at maturity of the bond, and the interest periodically while you are holding the bond. You make money both from the interest payments and purchasing the bond at less than its par value, although bonds sometimes trade higher than their par value. With bonds, the borrower has a legal obligation to pay them back. However, there is a risk. The borrower will not have the funds to pay the bond back. So that's a risk that you would take when you're purchasing a bond, is that the borrower, the person that you are purchasing that you're in connection with, that borrower may not have the funds to pay the bond back. Now, the only exception to that is if you purchase bonds from the Department of Treasury, because with the Department of Treasury is always able to print more money to pay their bonds. If a company declares bankruptcy, a bondholder may get nothing or very little. Also, if you try to sell the bond before it matures, there is also a risk you will not be able to sell it for as much as you purchased it for. And because of these risks, bonds tend to have a higher interest rate than a savings account or a CD. Now, purchasing stock. Purchasing stock means that you are becoming an owner of the company. And there are two ways to earn money from stocks. One is through dividends, as well as through selling the stock. So those are your two ways that you can earn money through when you're investing with stocks and bonds. So stocks are the riskiest savings vehicle that you can have, because there is no guarantee that you can sell the stock for more than you purchased it for. If a company is doing poorly, the value of your stock can drop dramatically. Also, companies have little obligation to pay dividends, although the majority of them do. Because stocks are the riskiest, they on average provide the highest return. This is more true long-term than short-term. Short-term, it is common for the value of stocks to fluctuate. And that's why many times when people talk to a financial consultant and you purchase stocks, you really do it for the long term, not the short term. You don't want to always try to sell because your stock, because you lose money that way. So the one thing is that is important if you're looking to purchase stock in a company. First of all, know something about the company. Get some history on the company. Find out, some things about them. What has been their trend in the past? Or do they pay their dividends? Is this a company that they're profitable and they've been profitable for some years? You don't know what the future holds. You can only look back and see what they have been doing, and to make that determination. And then, of course, talk to a financial consultant or a financial advisor when you're looking to purchase or do any type of investing. You also want to think about your own risk tolerance. How risky are you? How risky do you feel that you are? A lot of times, women don't feel that they can do things on a riskier level because they're looking at their income, their children, and different things like that. So sometimes women are not as risky as men in the stock market. But when you're investing in the stock, it is good to have an idea of how aggressive you feel you can be in the stock market. So you have to know your own risk tolerance. And when you sit down with a financial advisor, a lot of times they have a questionnaire that you can fill out that will kind of help to determine just how risky you are. Now, I will say that when you're younger, you can be more aggressive because you have more time to make up any losses. But if you're getting closer to retirement age, you do want to be less risky because you don't have as much time. If you're losing, if in the stock market the stocks go down and you're losing money, you may not have that time to really make that money back up before you retire. So those are things that you want to, really take a look at. If you have stocks out there and you're already investing, you still want to, talk to your financial advisor to talk about, I know what things that I'm in right now. Do I need to stay in those things, or should I start moving my money around and moving it into things that are less risky because I am getting ready to retire? So those are some, topics to have with your financial consultant to make sure that you stay on the right track with the investments that you are making. Okay, you want to maintain diversity, so you don't want to put all of your money as they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to put all your money into one thing. You want to diversify. You want to put some in riskier, some in less risky. You want to do mutual funds. There's so many different investment vehicles. That's why it's good to sit down and talk with someone and talk it out to know how is best to diversify. Even in your 401k plan, diversify that money there. Talk to whoever is running your 401k plan and talk to them about where you have your money and maybe what your money could be doing for you in different vehicles within your 401k plan. Okay? The further you are from your goal, the more aggressive you can afford to be. But that's, again, if you are, the younger you are, of course, the more aggressive you can afford to be. Okay. Okay, so now we want to look at merging finances. So one thing here, and like it says on the slide, we need to be honest with our partner about finances and credit. That is important that we are honest about our finances and honest about our credit. Many people at some point in their lives must deal with managing finances and paying expenses with someone else, either through marriage or cohabitation. Finances are one of the issues that couples fight about the most. Be honest with your partner about your money management style and your level of debt. Do you spend while they save? Or do you pay off your credit card balances each month while they rack up balances and have over $20,000 in debt? Address what behaviors or situations either of you will work on to change if needed. So those are things that you do need to talk about. And I made a note on here to even say things that really you should talk about before the wedding day to kind of know where we stand financially and how you handle finances compared to how they might handle finances, and then talk about what needs to change so that then there won't be such an issue and a problem once you're married and you have to start looking at your finances and your financial situation together. Excuse me. Usually it is helpful to have common goals that you can both work towards achieving together, such as purchasing a house or a car. Sometimes compromise is necessary. So there is a table on page 13 in your handout where you can list your goals, and it's something that the two of you can work on together to determine what makes the most sense and how you'll be able to handle your finances going in together, because you are merging your finances together. And for someone who may have been on their own for a long period of time, that may be harder to do than someone who is, getting married in their 20s or, early 20s or so. If you've been doing things on your own and then now having to merge, that is a good it is very good to sit down. It's good, period, but it's really good to sit down and to have those conversations so that it's not something that you're trying to deal with after you've gotten married. Okay, whether or not how you're gonna pay for your expenses. Are you gonna pay for them together? Are you gonna pay for them separately? There is no right or wrong answer here. It's what makes the most sense for your household. What are your goals? What is your budgeting strategies? Do you want to combine things? Do you want to have everything jointly, or do you want to, have some things joint and some things separate? Those are things that you really need to have those conversations about and talk about. There's is nothing wrong with having an account where the two of you put money in together, and then having your own separate accounts where you responsible for your spending out of that particular account, as long as you're putting monies agreed into the account to take care of things that you agree to take care of. So you can have a household account where you're putting, the majority of your money into that account, and maybe $100, $200, $300 into your own account for your own spending. So that's things, like I said, that is good to talk about, and it's good to talk about before marriage. But even if you didn't do that before marriage or cohabitation, it's good to still have those conversations so that it'll cut down on a lot of the fighting that happens over finances. And a lot of times that's because the fighting happens because of lack of communication. And we didn't talk about these things, and now everything's blowing up. So it's better to try to have those conversations and talk about them and be honest as you can be. Okay? So our next topic is children. So if you are planning to have children, it is best to prepare before you become pregnant. Many people struggle to pay expenses while on maternity leave because the leave is usually unpaid. So as we mentioned earlier, we talked about short-term disability. Having a short-term disability policy, if you don't have, because the companies may do maternity leave, but they may not pay for maternity leave. So it's best to have that in place, a short-term disability policy in place. For many women, once they have children, they must face the decision of whether to continue working or quit working. So that's something that you want to talk about, to see, are you going to stay at home, and do you have the finances to do that, to stay at home versus going back to work, or to stay at home for a certain period of time. Those are things that you want to kind of put in place, if at all possible, and talk about before the children begin, before you start having children. Working versus the daycare cost. How much is it going to cost to put my child in daycare versus if I'm working, it's the majority of the money that I'm making going towards the daycare. So it's things that you do have to consider, and you do have to to talk about, if at all possible, before the children come on the scene. Now, the one thing too is that with children, there are tax advantages. That you can have. You can get the child care credit. You can get child independent care credit when you file your taxes, as well as a flexible spending account. So those are some of the advantages of tax benefits that you get when you have children. So, but one of the things I will say is that you do want to, if it is at all possible, to try to plan it out before you have children, if that's possible. We have anyone on the line who is thinking about having children, to start planning some things out and to know what things are going to kind of look like once the children are on the scene. So with single mothers, sometimes with single mothers often face the most financial difficulty. They usually must work and pay for the daycare. Sometimes they get child support, and sometimes they do not. But even if the father is not working, or you have an informal, or if you have an informal agreement, it is a good idea to have a child support order. Having the order gives the child support authorities more options to collect. Again, I'll say that again. Having the order gives child support authorities more options to collect, such as garnishing wages or levying a checking or savings account. Unfortunately, receiving no or little child support is a common problem many women face, even if they have the order. If your income is limited, you may be able to receive help. There are different ways you can receive help through WIC, which offers food assistance. You may be able to get child care subsidies. So there's other options that you can look for, but it is a struggle for single moms trying to handle their finances and you handle them as best as you can. But if you are not getting child support, having a child support order out there is very important to have, and is really important for your child, that it is out there for the child. If your children are older, you are probably concerned about teaching them the value of money. So now is the time to teach them, to help them. Open up a savings account for your child and teach them how to save. When they get their birthday money or they get money for Christmas, or putting some of that aside, setting a goal. They may want a particular toy. Okay, let's save for that. How much does it cost? How much can we put aside for it? This will determine how soon we can purchase that toy. So teaching them those habits will go a long way, because it will help them in the future as they get older on how to handle their money and how to really look at it, so that they're handling their money, they're managing it, and their money is not managing them. So that is so important, to teach your child, to teach them the importance of savings and having money, and how to budget. What a budget is for and how to budget their money. Okay. And so our last topic is, we're going to be talking about caring for parents. So with caring for our parents, our aging parents is sometimes something that everyone has to deal with. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. But often it is the daughters. It is the daughters, the ladies, the women that take on this primary responsibility for caring for their loved one. I was blessed enough to care for my father when he was alive. So if your parents have long-term care insurance, that can make life easier, since the cost is less than an obstacle. Okay, if they have that, but a lot of times they don't have that, and so it's you that has to, or the women that have to take on this responsibility. Usually, deciding your parents' care is a collaborative decision between your parents and your siblings if you have them, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something that you have to jump in and do, and you have to make all the decisions. People don't always agree, and sometimes that the conflict can happen. But if there is a conflict, you want to seek help from a geriatric care manager, and usually that person is a trained nurse or social worker, and they can examine your situation and give you recommendations on what they feel is most appropriate for your parents. So don't feel that you have to take on all the responsibility yourself. Reach out for help if you need it. That is so important. That women, we sometimes we want to take it on all the responsibilities on ourselves. But a lot of times we do have to reach out for help. So it's okay to do that. Reach out for help if you need it. For many people, the option they choose is to let their parents live with them, which is fine. If you are helping a parent, don't forget about your own needs. So don't forget about that. Take care of yourself while you're in the midst of taking care of your parent. So that physical and mental um, help for yourself is very much needed. Okay, and you don't want to forget that. For many people that are working, when a parent becomes ill, they wonder whether or not they should leave their jobs to care for their parents. Before quitting a job, try to see if you are eligible for leave, since quitting your job can be detrimental to your financial well-being. If your employer has 50 or more employees and you have worked for the employer for at least 1 year, for at least 1,250 hours, you can take up to 12 weeks of leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act to care for a parent. So that is something to remember. If you have to take on a parent, that parent is ill, and you're trying to decide if you should leave your job, if there is a way that you can take a medical leave, a family leave to do that, Even though the leave is unpaid, the thing here is that you will not be fired or demoted from your job. And so you have that option to be able to go back to work once you kind of get things settled for your for your parent. And I'm sorry, I actually said that was the last topic, but there was one more, and that is divorce. Often, divorce is a financial hardship on more so on women than men. Many divorcing women have no jobs because some of them stay at home or they have lower paying jobs. Okay, so no one wants to plan for, no one gets married hoping that they're going to get a divorce. No one gets married anticipating that they might get a divorce. But the thing here is making sure that you will protect yourself by maintaining some financial independence while you are married. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we're having this seminar, this webinar, so that women can see that there are some options there. If you can maintain some independence, financial independence on your own, it will work. It will be beneficial to you, whether it's through a divorce or through widowhood, that you will not be at a loss if your spouse is no longer there. Okay, so whether it's, like I said, whether it's through divorce or whether it's through death, that you have some independence for yourself. And some of the things on here on the slide, it says to hire your own lawyer, to think about needs now and for the future. List out all the assets. Make adjustments to your budget. Try to present a unified front to your children. Make sure your divorce decree does not void legal, understand that your divorce decree does not void legal obligations to pay co-signed debt. So even through your divorce decree, if you co-signed debt with your spouse, you're still legally responsible for that debt even after the divorce. Okay? Becoming a widow, preparing beforehand. That's why it's so important to have that life insurance in place. That is important to have. Know where all the documents are. If you have a will, if you have a trust fund, know where everything is located so you'll know what steps that you're going to take once, if that does happen. And then after death, you want to avoid making major decisions right away. You want to notify your creditors and other companies and let them know that your spouse has passed on. But you do want to avoid making major decisions right away. You want to try to take care of the things that need to be taken care of first. See what type of position you are in, what type of financial position you are in before you start to make any major decisions. Okay, so having yourself financially prepared, doing a financial preparedness checklist, those are things that you need to have to set a deadline for yourself for achievement. When do you want to have these things done? Preparation is the key. Preparing for everything, doing everything that you can in your power to prepare for all the life stages and different things that you may have to go through. Preparation is key, and while you have the time to prepare, I would say prepare now for things that may happen in the future. Okay, so I thank you so much for joining us. We do partner with a company called Balance. Balance is a financial education and counseling service. And if you do need to speak with them, they help with money management counseling, debt repayment options, credit review, and so much more. And you can, their contact information is right here on the screen. So I thank you so much, ladies, for joining us and having this time to talk about our financial situation. And if any of you need to reach out to myself or to Zachary, please feel free to do that. Thank you so much. Zachary?
Perfect. Thank you first and foremost so much for that wonderful presentation, Amy. That was a lot to get through. It's a lot of great information. Wonderful. Thank you. I want to thank everyone again for joining us. I hope that you did take a lot of this great information and that it was new and helpful for you. If not, I at least hope it was a great brush up on what you may have already known. As Amy said, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. As far as that, I answered any questions that did come through. I don't have any left that we need to pass along to you, Amy, so that's great. But if anyone does have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. We will get back to you as soon as we can on there. There was a few of you that asked us to reach out to you. We will be reaching out to you as soon as we can on there, usually 24 to 48 hours, and we'll reach out and get that handled for you. As I did state at the very beginning, we are going to send out an email that is going to have the presentation in a PDF form for you. The handout is on the GoToWebinar. You can grab that if you'd like. I'll try to throw it in the email as well. Yes, we do try to record these webinars. So as soon as we have the final copy of that, we will send that out as well so that you can watch this. So that way you can look back and go over the great information that Amy did share. I do hope that the rest of your week goes great. We're almost there to the weekend. Hopefully it's nice and relaxing or productive if that's what you have planned. Some of you all like to get stuff done on the weekends. I'm a relaxer. But with that being said, thank you all again so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday and enjoy your day. Thank you so much.